Hello everyone, welcome back. So just continuing what we have discussed in my previous video lecture, what we have seen in our previous video lecture, just to summarize, we have seen the basic principles related to demand. What is the demand curve? How do we classify the different kind of products? What are the different market conditions? So this we have seen in the previous lecture. So in this lecture, we will see what is supply and how this is being related to price. On the similar lines, what we have discussed for demand. So demand is basically from the perspective of end user or from the perspective of consumer. So the general law of demand states that whenever there is a decrease in price, there will be a high demand for that particular product. Now let me put a question before you. Say for example, if I am the manufacturer of any product and if the price is higher in the market or lower in the market, what my reaction is? Whether to supply less or whether to supply more. So this question can be answered if we understand the term supply. Supply is basically the fundamental economic concept that describes the total amount of a specific good or service that is available to consumer. Demand is, I want a product, but this product may be available in the market, may not be available in the market. It depends upon the supply. So the thing is, being a manufacturer, it's important for me to know that how much quantities for particular product I need to supply in the market at any given point of time. So that is what we mean by supply. Or we can say that supply is the willingness and the ability of producers to create goods and services and to take them to the market. Ideally, what the demand is, ideally this should be supplied, but depending upon the situation, say for example, if my plant capacity is not enough to supply what is being demanded, then I may produce quantities which is less than what is being asked. Or, if I am not fetching a proper price for my particular product, I may not produce much quantities, or rather I may wait for the proper time to flush my product into the market whenever there is a higher price for that particular item or product. On the similar lines, what we have discussed for demand, there are certain factors on which the supply depends. What are these? These are price of a particular product. Of course, since I am being a manufacturer, it is important for me to know how the prices for the raw materials are. If the raw material price is quite high, I may not go for production. Rather, I will wait for the time where I can get the same raw material at a lower price. Of course, technological aspect. Say for example, CRT versus LED. If I am foreseeing that the CRT technology is obsolete, LED technology is coming into picture, then there is no point in producing televisions based on CRT technology. Expectations, what the consumer wants in near future. So I may wait for certain period of time before making my product readily available in the market, because I know that over a period of time this will be the expectation from the consumer. Of course, a lot more depend upon my competitors, what they are doing. So sometimes we are just doing it because my competitor is doing the same. So these are some of the factors on which the supply depends. What is important here is the price. So being a manufacturer, if I just leave all the other factors, I only want to manufacture product at that particular point of time that will fetch me more profit. So that is the condition. Say for example, at one point of time, X profit is realized by selling 10 units another point of time, this X profit is realized by selling 100 units. So what I will prefer? Obviously, I will prefer to generate this X profit just by selling this 10 number of units. Fine. So supply depends upon what is the price of that commodity at which it is being sold in an open market. We have seen the demand curve, that is, whenever the price falls down, the demand of that commodity or the product increases. Similar is the case with the supply curve. Rather, in this case, the supply is higher when the price is higher. That is the difference between the supply curve and the demand curve. So the supply curve is a graphical representation of the relationship between product price and the quantity of product that a seller is willing and able to supply. Of course, I will be supplying more number of units in the market if my plant is capable of producing that much quantities. That will fetch me a higher profit. And how higher profit is being generated if the same unit, instead of fetching 10 rupees, it is fetching 100 rupees from the market. So that is a very simple explanation. So if we just see, unlike in the demand curve where we have the demand increasing whenever there is a fall in price, for the supply curve, the demand increases whenever there is an increase in the price, and the demand falls whenever there is a decrease in the price. So this is a typical supply curve. We have the law of supply, which states that the demand decreases whenever there is a higher price of that commodity and vice versa. On the similar lines, we have a law of supply. That means other factors being equal, competitors, technology, raw material, all these factors we are not taking into consideration. The quantity supplied of the good rises when the price of that good rises. So we have this kind of correlation, positive correlation. That is, whenever there is a higher price of a particular product, more from a seller's point of view or from a manufacturer's point of view, I wish to supply more number of units in the market. The reason being that now I will be generating profits at much lower volume. Here is the pictorial representation. Increase in price will lead to increase in supply. Decrease in price will lead to decrease in supply. Obviously, the objective is higher profit at lower volume of productions. So that is what we mean by the law of supply. Now, if we know the law of demand and the law of supply, let's see how generally we call this as a circular flow of economic activity. We have two conditions. One is output market, one is input markets. Output market means the products which are readily available. Output markets are the markets in which goods and services are exchanged. So this is basically where we are exchanging goods or services. So what is being input into this output market? We have firms. They are basically supplying the product to these output markets, and from these output markets, depending upon the demand, the household, they are consuming these products or services. Similarly, input from these households like labor, raw material. So these are basically the supply which is being input to these markets, and based on this, the input markets, they compute the demand, and basically this is being fed into the firm, and with this input, the firm basically manufactures something in the form of supply, and this circular flow is taking place. So here in input markets, it basically includes labor, capital, land, use, produce, raw materials, whatever is being required to produce or to produce that particular item. However, this is basically the flow of products, but the money flow, the payment flow in an opposite direction. So payment flows like this. So payment flows opposite direction as the physical flow of resources, goods and services. So payments will be flowing like this. like from the output market to firm, from firm to input market, input to household, and household to output market, like this. So this is known as the circular flow of any economic activity. Now, you have a supply curve and you have a demand curve. My question is, for these two curves, we have quantities on one axis and price on another axis. If we superimpose these two curves together, how the picture will look like? The picture will look like something like this. So we have a demand curve. Demand curve means whenever the price falls, the quantity demanded or the quantities will experience a higher demand, and whenever there is a price rise from the supply point of view, the quantity supplied will be increasing whenever higher price. So the thing is, how do the supply and the demand curve together determines the quantity and the price of goods sold? So if you just see this particular curve, there is one very interesting point where this supply and demand curve, they both intersect. This is basically known as an equilibrium point. So an equilibrium point, it can be defined where a supply and the demand curve, they intersect each other. And the beauty of this particular point is that if we just see from the demand perspective and supply perspective, this is the point where we have supply is equal to demand. Whatever is being demanded, that is being produced. So equilibrium point is a situation where we have supply equals to demand. And for this equilibrium price, we have a price what we call as a equilibrium price. Sometimes it is also called as a market clearing price. And this is the price at which the quantities demanded and supplied both are equal. What is the importance of this curve? This is an ideal curve, both from the end user point of view and from the supplier point of view. Whatever number of quantities is being demanded by the end users, that are being supplied by the manufacturer. So an important implication of this curve is what we call as the law of supply and demand. So what this law of supply and demand states that ideally, when we are going to purchase any product from the market, its price should be such so that it should be such that the price should be that one at which the supply and the demand both be equal. So ideally, the cost of any particular product should be that cost or should be that price at which the supply and the demand both are equal. So ideally, the cost of a commodity, product or item available in the market should be the price at which the demand and supply are equal. That is, ideally a product should be available at equilibrium price. Fine. So this is a very ideal situation, and this is the most important law of economics as far as economics is concerned. That is what we call as the law of supply. Now if you see here on this particular curve, what we have, if I just extend this blue line horizontally, we have a region where we have less demand, excess supply for a particular price. Say if price is 50, the demand is this, but the supply is higher. So this is the region what we call as where we are producing surplus quantities. Similarly, below this horizontal blue line, we have a condition. Say for example, if I take this 10, then at this particular price, what is being demanded is higher than what is being supplied. So this is the region what we call as a shortage region. So ideally, surplus is also detrimental and shortage is also detrimental. Surplus is detrimental in the sense that if we have a surplus good available in the market, then the price will fall down because there are no takers for it. Whatever is being demanded, that is being fulfilled, and excess good, it is lying in the warehouses. Unnecessary, that will lose its value, and that will be a loss to the manufacturer. As far as shortage is concerned, this is also detrimental, because if we have a shortage, then the consumer might switch over to a different alternative which is available before it. If product X is shortage and complementary or we can say the equivalent product is there in the market, then the consumer will switch over to that particular new product, and unnecessarily, because of just shortage and demand, we are losing our customers. So the ideal point is that one should operate a business at this particular point, that is, the supply and the demand both are equal, and the costing should be such so that it should be that particular cost where the supply and the demand being equal, what we call as the equilibrium price. So this is all about the supply curve and what will happen when we plot the supply and the demand curve or we superimpose these two together, and what is the equilibrium. In our next lecture, we will see some of the implications of this law of supply and demand. We will explain some of the phenomena which we physically see happening around, and we will try to explain all these phenomena of price rise, shortage of demands, voting with the help of these curves. So hope you have enjoyed this second lecture on the basics of economics. So thank you very much.